right, good morning. It's good to see everyone this morning. We do have some of our group gone at Lads to Leaders this weekend, so we hope that they are enjoying their time. If you have your Bible, Joshua chapter 1 is where we will be, but don't worry, we'll look at Deuteronomy 34, but that's how Deuteronomy ends, or it's the last chapter of Deuteronomy, so it's back to back. And so if you go to Joshua 1, most likely on the other page is Deuteronomy 34. We'll consider some things as we begin Joshua chapter 1 this morning. My goal is to do a chapter a Sunday until we get to a chapter where we can't. And I don't see any reason why we can't do the entire chapter, first chapter this morning, unless I just chase too many rabbits. But we introduced the book of Joshua last Sunday. And so let me refresh our memory with just a couple of things as far as the book, and then a couple of new points that we did not make last Sunday, a couple of interesting facts and points about Joshua. The book of Joshua is the sixth book of the Bible. It follows the Pentateuch. The first 5 books of the Bible are attributed to Moses as the author: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 34 is believed that someone else penned that chapter because it records the death of Moses. And so how can someone record when they're dying and after they have died? And so many have believed that someone else penned Deuteronomy 34. The same is true with Joshua. Joshua, the very last chapter, chapter 24 or 23 and 24, that there was a different penman to record the death of Joshua at the end of the book. Some of the things that we consider just going through the book of Joshua: Joshua means salvation. Now, I want to revisit his name because his name was actually changed, and I did not realize that until I continued studying this week, and then I realized, and there's so much stuff, so many details, that oftentimes teaching a class, it's hard to cover everything, and so then you come across a new detail, and you're like, oh, well, that's new to me, or it's something that I knew and forgot. But Joshua's name was actually changed. And so if we turn to Numbers chapter 13, Numbers 13, verse 16, as Moses is selecting the 12 spies to go into the land of Canaan, his name is changed. Numbers 13, 16. This is the spies. They're named here. 16, these are the names of the men whom Moses sent to spy out the land. And Moses called Hoshea, the son of Nun, Joshua. And so he changes his name here. Joshua, the original name, Hoshea, in the Hebrew means salvation. But when it is changed by Moses, it means the Lord is salvation. So he does go through a name change here. Moses calling Hoshea, the son of Nun, Joshua. He's the son of Nun, one of the 12 spies. Caleb is the other faithful spy, Joshua and Caleb. And they will go into the land of Canaan to spy it out. And Joshua and Caleb were the only ones that came back believing that they could take this land with the help of God. Sixth book of the Bible. It's the first book of the Bible that has a name attached to it, a person's name. And so this is the first time we have a person's name on a book. It's part of the history books of history, Joshua through Esther. It covers about 25 to 30 years. It's hard to really know exactly, but 25 to 30 years. Joshua dies at 110 years old. And so a couple more things that I want to give to you We mentioned that last week. In fact, we ended class. I told you that Joshua was around 80-ish years old when he is called in Joshua chapter 1. He's about 85 at the oldest. Okay, he's 85 at the oldest, 86, 85. And so when we put some numbers together, if they spent 40 years in the wilderness, he's about 40, give or take, when he leaves Egypt. He's about 40. 40 years in the wilderness. In Joshua chapter 1, Joshua is 80 to 85 years old when he is called by God to lead Israel into the promised land. And then he dies at 110. And the book covers 25 to 30 years of history. And so we're not given, let me throw this out there in Joshua 14. We are told Caleb, so Joshua and Caleb, the two spies that came back faithful, believing, we are given Caleb's age in Scripture. And he was about 40 years old. And so many believe that Joshua and Caleb were, in fact, about the same age, and Caleb's age is given. Joshua chapter 14. Joshua 14. Just thinking about some numbers here. Joshua 14, verse 7. Backing up to verse 6, then the children of Judah came to Joshua in Gilgal, and Caleb, the son, all right, here's Caleb, and so this is Caleb speaking. He said to him, you know the word which the Lord said to Moses, the man of God, concerning you and me and Kadesh Barnea. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land and brought back word to him as it was in his heart. And so Caleb is 40 when he is chosen as a spy to go into the land of Canaan. Most likely, Joshua is around the same age, 40 years old. They wander in the wilderness for 40 years. So 80 to 85 is the age of Joshua. When we turn to Joshua chapter 1 and we begin reading as Moses has died and Joshua is selected to be the next leader of Israel. Go to Deuteronomy 34 for just a moment. Deuteronomy 34. Let's read about the death of Moses. As Moses dies and Joshua is selected in Joshua chapter 1. In fact, that's the opening verses. And so we'll consider the death of Moses first. And then when we pick up Joshua 1, 1 through 2, you read the Moses, the servant of the Lord, has died. So, Deuteronomy, let's begin in verse 1, 2, and 3. And then verse 4 is really our focus, but let's get the context. Then Moses went up from the plains of Moab to Mount Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, which is across from Jordan. And the Lord showed him all the land of Gilead as far as Dan, all Naphtali and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, all the land of Judah as far as the western sea, which would be the sea of the Mediterranean Sea, the south and the plain of the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees as far as Zoar. So he shows him the land because he's not going to enter it. He disobeyed God. God said, speak to the rock. He smote the rock. He defied God. But the bigger problem is that he showed disobedience in front of the children of Israel. And because of that, he will not enter the land. However, God shows it to him. And so if you can imagine the last moments of Moses, his history in Egypt and leading the children out, he at least gets to see, as far as the Lord will show him, the land that the children of Israel will inherit. But then verse 4, then the Lord said to him, this is the land of which I swore to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to your descendants. I have caused you to see it with your eyes, but you shall not cross over there. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, verse 5, died there in the land of Moab according to the word of the Lord. And he buried him in the valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor, but no one knows his grave to this day. Moses was 120 years when he died. So then you turn to Joshua 1. And the very first words, verses 1 and 2, now after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass, because God needs another leader. Life must go on. Just because a pillar like Moses dies, life goes on. The children of Israel still need a leader. At one point, God needed a leader, and he goes to Moses in a burning bush and says, I need a leader to go into Egypt and to lead my people out. I need you. And so at one point, God calls Moses, but Moses now has died. He needs another leader. There's a transition here. Now, after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that the Lord spoke to Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' minister, or your translation may say servant, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, go over this Jordan, thou and all this people, into the land which I do give to them, even to the children of Israel. It's been a long time coming. God promised this land all the way back to Abraham in Genesis chapter 12. And because of their disobedience, because of their unfaithfulness, they'll spend years in Egypt. They'll spend 40 years in the wilderness. It's been a long time coming. And so the entire book of Joshua, this is just the beginning. The entire book of Joshua is really them entering into this land and conquering it. They should have done it with the 12 spies. The 12 spies should have come back and said, hey, we can take it. And they should have gone and taken it. But that's not how it happened. But the book of Joshua shows us how they will take the land. They will conquer it. The land will be divided to 11 of the tribes. Levi will inherit the priesthood. So God goes and calls Joshua. In Deuteronomy 34, let's go back to Deuteronomy 34 quickly. We're going to drop down to verse 9, because I think in just a verse or two we are told why God selected Joshua. Now Joshua, the son of Nun, was full of the spirit of wisdom. For Moses had laid his hands on him, so the children of Israel heeded him, and did as the Lord had commanded Moses. And so Joshua seems fit and adequately prepared to be the next leader of Israel. And so we go back to Joshua chapter 1, the first two verses. Let's go to Numbers 20, just for a moment. I might be out of order in some of my notes here, but Numbers 20 is when Moses disobeys God. So let's read a couple of things that happens here. As Moses has died, and this is why. Numbers 20. We could begin in verse 1, but we're, Verse 1, then the children of Israel, the whole congregation, came into the wilderness of Zin in the first month, and the people stayed in Kadesh, and Miriam died there and was buried there. Verse 2, now there was no water for the congregation, so they gathered together against Moses and Aaron. So I believe that's part of the struggle with Moses. The people are hard to deal with. They're frustrating. They're mad, they're angry, they're rebellious. And it will cost Moses something here as he becomes angry and seems to be the reason behind hitting the rock. But that's the context. We drop down to verse 7. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, take the rod, you and your brother Aaron, gather the congregation together, speak to the rock before their eyes. And see, this is why I believe this is part of the problem. He smote the rock. He disobeyed. Yes, that is half of the problem. The other half is that he did it in front of Israel. And so not only does he disobey, he shows disobedience to the people. And so both of those together, his disobedience and then showing it before the congregation. Okay. Hey, great point. So continue verse 8. Take the rod, you and your brother Aaron, gather the congregation together, speak to the rock. That's the command. He's already done it once. He already saw it the first time he spoke to the rock. Water came out. There's another time. Verse 10. Continue. I mean, you can continue reading there. In your Bible, it'll bring forth water to them out of the rock and give drink to the congregation and their animals. So Moses took the rod from before the Lord as he commanded him, and Moses and Aaron gathered, verse 10, the assembly together before the rock, and he said to them, hear now, you rebels, must we bring water for you out of this rock? Then Moses lifted up his hand, struck the rock twice with his rod, and water came out abundantly. I've always, even as a little kid, I always found it interesting that even though Moses disobeys in this moment, God still provides them with water. He's not punishing Israel for Moses' disobedience here. He still gives them water because they needed water, but Moses has disobeyed. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, verse 12, and Aaron, because you did not believe me, to hallow me in the eyes of the children of Israel. Going back to what I said a moment ago a couple of times, Moses disobeyed, yes, but he did it in front of the children of Israel and lifts himself up in maybe position with God, comparing himself here. But here is his disobedience. Therefore, you shall not bring this assembly into the land which I have given them. It will not be you. It will be Joshua. All right, we go back to Joshua. Verses 1 and 2. Moses has died. Verses 3 and 4. Here's a description, a vast description of the land. Every place that the sole of your foot shall tread upon. I have given you, as I said to Moses, from the wilderness and this Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, and to the great sea, the Mediterranean, toward the going down of the sun shall be your territory. And so in verses 3 and 4, we have just a description of this land that God has promised to give to the descendants of Abraham. He promised it to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob. I will give you this land. Now, here's something to consider. God has already given it to them, but they still have to go and take it, conquer it. The people that lived in the land were idolatrous people. They were Canaanites. They were idol worshipers. They were to go and drive these people out of the land, to conquer and take the land, which is why we read 4 times in the first chapter that God tells Joshua, and perhaps the Israelites as well, but at least speaking to Joshua, 4 times to be strong and courageous. I've given this land to you, yes, but be strong and courageous, because you will have to go conquer this land. You will have to plan. You will have to take it when the enemy is still in the land. You will have to trust me. You will have to go, and you will have to have battle strategies. You will have to go take it. And it may be a little intimidating and scary at times, but be strong, be courageous, because I am with you. Even still today, if we can make an application, living the Christian life can be scary at times, especially in some places in the world today. If you live in a country where Christianity is illegal, to live faithfully can be, if we're being honest, can be scary. Now, the Bible calls us to be brave, to be strong, to be courageous. Even the disciples in the New Testament, Jesus said, the world hates me, they're going to hate you. Be strong, be courageous, and live faithful. I believe that's even the context of Revelation 2 and verse 10. John doesn't say be faithful until death. He says be faithful unto death. Even if they kill you, be faithful, and you shall receive a crown of life. So going back to Joshua, he'll tell him to be strong and courageous. I have given you this land. It's vast. It's gigantic. It's enormous. From this river to this sea to here. I have given it to you. And you will go and you will, and we'll see that throughout the book of Joshua. They will go and they will take it. Beginning in verse 5 through 9, we have another section. So the first 4 verses, you have a section, Joshua appointed as the new leader of Israel. Verses 5 through 9, another little section as we kind of dissect the passage here. Verses 5 through 9, you have conditions which would ensure Joshua's success in conquering the land. And so verses 5 through 9, God says, be strong and courageous, but also do this and do this and do this. And if you do these things, you'll be successful. If you remember me, if you keep my commandments, if you meditate if you do these things, you will be successful. Okay? Beginning in verse 5. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you nor forsake you. God makes a promise to Joshua that he will always be there for him. Now, again, let's make an application today. Does it always feel like God is with us? It doesn't always. Sometimes we get busy, and sometimes we, according to our life and our routine and our forgetfulness to pray and to study, and we get to a point in our life where we feel, from a human standpoint, that God is far away and that he's not with us. So sometimes we can feel like God's not there. So going back to Joshua, I imagine Joshua might have felt that way at times. Is God there? But God made the promise. I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. And according to Scripture, God cannot lie. God said, I will always be with you, Joshua. I can only imagine every general in every army around the world would love this kind of assurance that everything that they do will prosper. Everything that they do, they will succeed. Everything that they do, as long as they stay with God, and God will always be with them, as long as they do these things, they are sure to win. Yes, sir. Yeah, hey, great points, brother. Verse 6, we have the first command to be strong. And so, for just a moment, I'm going to break away from going verse by verse. Notice the 4 times that they are instructed, commanded to be strong and be courageous. The first time is in verse 6, then it's repeated in verse 7, and then verse 9, and then I believe verse 18, and we'll find out if that's true. But verse 6, the first time, be strong and of good courage. Verse 7 is repeated a little bit differently. Only be strong and very courageous. Dropping down to verse 9, the verse that's a little bit more familiar to us. Have I not commanded you? And he has. That's somewhat of a rhetorical question. Have I not? Yes. Be strong and of good courage. Don't be afraid, nor be dismayed, for the Lord is with you wherever you go. Then drop it down to verse 18, the last verse of the chapter. Now, remember, Joshua didn't write in chapters, but conveniently divided for us. Verse 18, whoever rebels against your command and does not heed your words, and all that you command him shall be put to death. Only be strong and of good courage. And so if God says something 4 times, God says something once, but if he says it 4 times, be strong and courageous. Going back up to verse 6. Be strong and of good courage, for unto this people shalt thou divide for an inheritance the land for which I swore to their fathers to give them. So again, we have this instruction, this command to be strong, be courageous, because he's going to give them this land that he has promised, and they, because of their disobedience, they're not there yet, but they will, and they will enter this land. Since Joshua is now the leader of Israel, he will have to face battles. He will have to face war. He will have to overcome what seems impossible. For example, I don't know what your mind would think. I don't know how you would react if you go to a fortified city with a wall all the way around the city, several feet thick, surrounding and protecting this city. And God says, march around it one time for 6 days. One time a day for 6 days. Okay? On the 7th day, march around it 7 times. And then blow on the trumpets and horns. And then they're going to overtake Jericho. The walls are going to fall inward. Just one example of how they're going to have to go and proceed and overtake and conquer this land. And be strong and of good courage. Verse 7, only thou be strong and very courageous. Now here are some conditions. Notice some conditions. God said, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and be courageous. Now here are some conditions that God sets forth to ensure Moses or Joshua's success. Only be thou strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. Okay? So to ensure Joshua's success, God will never leave him, true. Be strong and courageous, check. But in the meantime, do not stray away from God, His commands, His law. Do not rebel. Be faithful. A little bit later on, we in verse 8 will have a little bit more instruction. But notice these conditions. Moses or Joshua will be successful because God will be with him as long as he stays with God. There's always two people in this relationship with God. There's God, and then there's us. He's going to be faithful. We have to be faithful. Same is true with Joshua. And so consider verse 8 in connection with verse 7. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate in it day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. And so if we combine verse 7 and verse 8 together, observe to do according to the law which Moses my servant commanded you. Don't turn to the right hand, don't turn to the left, don't stray away. Straight down the middle. Observe the law, the book of the law. Don't let it depart from your mouth. Teach it, preach it, instruct from it. Meditate on it day, meditate on it in the night. Observe to do all that is written therein, not some, not what you like, not what you think is better. Do all that is written therein. And when you do this, you follow God's law and instruction, Joshua will be prosperous in what he does. Joshua was to meditate on it day and night. Whenever he had opportunity, he was to think about it, and to think about it seriously, to contemplate it, to meditate, so that it's not just in his mind, but it's in his heart. The Bible tells us over and over that whatever is in our heart, that's the kind of person we are. Whatever we put in is what comes out. Jesus would say, Matthew 15:19, for out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornication, thefts, false witness, blasphemy, out of the heart. The Proverbs writer, Proverbs 4:23, keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. And so if Joshua here is instructed by God to meditate on the law day and night, meditate all the time, whenever you can, put it in your mind, put it in your heart. Don't let yourself stray away from it. Saturate your life with it. And in doing so, he will be the leader that he needs to be, that God wants him to be. He will be the leader that Israel needs. And God will be with him, and he will be successful in leading Israel to this promised land. Verse 9, have I not commanded you? Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid, neither be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5 says, let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such things as you have. For he hath said, I will never leave you nor forsake you, so that we may boldly say, the Lord is my helper, and I will not fear what man shall do to me. That's the promise made to us and to the, as Paul's or the writers writing to the Christians of the Hebrew book, the promise that was made to Joshua, I will be with you. Be strong, be courageous. I'm your helper, your defender. All right, that's verse 9. So that's that section, 5 through 9. Continuing on, got about 10 or so minutes. Verses 10 and 11, you have Joshua's first command. And so Joshua hits the ground running. God comes to Joshua and says, Moses has died. Need a new leader. Be strong, be courageous. Here's some conditions. If you will do these things, you will be successful. I'll never leave you nor forsake you. And then verses 10 and 11. Let's read those together. Then Joshua commanded the officers of the people, saying, pass through the camp and command people, saying, prepare provisions for yourselves, for within 3 days you will cross over this Jordan to go in to possess the land which the Lord your God is giving to you to possess. And so here's Joshua's first command to the officers of the people. I want you to go throughout the camp. It's estimated that there's a couple of million, 2 or so million people. At least there were 2 million people that left Egypt. So I don't know how many people there are today, well, with Joshua, but there's a lot of people. So he tells the officers of the people, go throughout all of the camp and make sure you tell everyone in the camp to make provisions, to pack what they need to pack. Within 3 days, we will journey. We're going to go over the Jordan. They've already done it once. They, in leaving Egypt, will cross the Red Sea. Now they will cross over the Jordan, and they will go into this land. That's his first command to the people. The last section of the chapter, Joshua speaks to the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh, verses 12 through 18. And to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and half the tribe of Manasseh, Joshua spoke, saying, remember the word which Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, saying, the Lord your God has given you rest and has given you this land. Your wives, your little ones, your livestock shall remain in the land which Moses gave you on this side of the Jordan. But you shall pass before your brethren armed, all your mighty men of valor, and help them until the Lord has given your brethren rest, as he gave you. And they also have taken possession of the land which the Lord your God is giving them. Then you shall return to the land of your possession and enjoy it, which Moses, the Lord's servant, gave you on this side of the Jordan toward the sunrise. And so to these tribes, or at least to 2 and to half of Manasseh, their land portion was on this side of the Jordan, particular side. They were to leave their wives, their children, their livestock. All of the mighty men, the strong men of valor, were to go and to help fight, to help their brothers, their brethren, to possess the land. And once everything was done, they may return back to their portion of the land. But verse 16 through 18, so they answered Joshua, saying, all that you command us, we will do. And wherever you send us, we will go. It's a pretty good mindset. They were willing to do whatever this new leader of Israel told them to do. Joshua, whatever you say, we'll do it. Wherever you send us, we'll go. Just as we heeded Moses in all things, so we will heed you. Only the Lord your God be with you as he was with Moses. Whoever rebels against your command and does not heed your words, and all that you command him shall be put to death. Only be strong and of good courage. Now, oftentimes when there's a leadership change, there is resistance for the new leader. I've seen it in youth ministry. I didn't necessarily experience it, but my brother did, and it's very common. My brother, when he was a youth minister, he worked with a congregation in Corinth, Mississippi, and there was a group of high schoolers that would never do anything with the group. And I asked him, or I don't know if I asked him directly, but in our conversation one time, he told me that they did not do anything with the group because they really liked the old youth minister, and when the old youth minister left, they just made their mind up that they're not going to do anything because I don't even know why. He didn't even know why, but that's very common. That is an issue within congregations. You have one preacher or youth minister leave, and you have a group of people that were so connected to the guy that left. And so there's this resistance that oftentimes takes place even in the church. And so when we look at what is taking place here, I admire the men that say, you are now the leader. Just as we followed Moses, we will follow you. Wherever you tell us to go, we'll go. Whatever you tell us to do, we'll do. They don't sit back and say, hey, Moses was our leader for all these years, and you're new to the job, and we're not going to do. They didn't have that mindset. Whatever you do, Joshua, tell us to do, we'll do it. As God was with Moses, may God be with you. And so Joshua is going to lead Israel into the promised land. And they will conquer it, and they'll have other issues along the way. Don't think that they're problem-free from now on. They will have other issues and more rebellion and more struggles, and they will go through it with Joshua. Any questions, comments? It's a couple minutes till. I think I got a couple. 2 hands back there. That's true. What you got, brother? Well, so we mentioned that in the beginning of the class, that Joshua dies at 110 years old at the end of the book of Joshua. The book of Joshua covers about 25 to 30 years. And so he's called the lead around 80 something. Yeah. 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 And, I do feel like Joshua, and I told you last week that Joshua, I love Joshua. He's one of my favorite characters, reason why I wanted to teach this book. And one of the reasons why is we don't see him complaining. We never see him making excuses. God comes to him and says, I need a new leader. And Joshua's at 80-something years old. He could have made an excuse, but he doesn't, and he just does it. And so Joshua just really stands out for so many reasons, including that. I'm done. It's 15 till. Appreciate your attention. And we'll pick up chapter 2 next week. What's up, brother? How you doing?